Hello, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Mandy Caroy, and you're listening to Dr. Mandy Unedited. Today, I'm going to talk about something a little bit more personal. Like I said, I want to alternate between giving you some really informative podcasts and also alternate between some more real life stuff, some more real life stories in my journey in research and editing. So, today's episode, I'm going to talk about how I got into research, and yeah, it's basically the biggest plot twist of my life. So, first of all, I want to take you all the way back into my childhood. This has a purpose, I promise. But growing up in education was really, really difficult for me. Okay. So, as I've mentioned before, I have ADHD, but I didn't figure that out until maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So, now that I've figured that out, my whole life makes so much more sense. And I really have been reflecting a lot about how my childhood was really affected by those symptoms of ADHD, and they really did affect my educational career as well. But growing up, I in school had a lot of problems paying attention in class. I couldn't pass a test to save my life. My reading comprehension was just crap. And to top it all off, I lived in a very, very, very highly intelligent family. All of my immediate family members have doctoral degrees now. And early in childhood, they really showed that they had those intellectual chops. And so I often felt very intimidated by a lot of people, and I didn't feel like I was very intelligent or smart at all. And in fact, when I got to university, I did end up dropping out of university and grad school a couple of times because I really struggled with the pressure of trying to prove that I was intelligent. So career-wise, I was an educator for about 10 years, and I ended up getting a job for this private school that was very unconventional in terms of how they chose to educate kids. So they were doing a lot of like project-based education, a lot of outdoors, hands-on type of stuff. And that program really started to flourish for that school. And as it flourished, I began to flourish as well. I actually became the assistant director of the school, and I really had a passion for all of these kids that I was teaching, especially when I started to notice that most of the kids that were coming in were neurodivergent, and they also were having a lot of very similar traumas and fears that I could relate to myself when I was growing up. So it really got me thinking how unfair it was that mainstream education kind of is not really cut out for people that are not neurotypical. And it was really cool that I was working in a place that seemed to be successful in educating those atypical people. And so, although I had like a master's degree at this point, I had put off the pursuing any kind of doctoral degree because, again, I just didn't think that I had the chops to do it. But I really just thought that getting an education, learning how to research could help me really understand the ways in which neurodivergent students could learn. And then I thought, maybe somewhere in the wild future, I could contribute to something that would make the standard of learning something that is accessible to all kids. So that was really what drove me to uh, pursuing a doctoral degree. And so I applied for, originally it was going to be an EDD program, but then, plot twist, I met somebody from the UK right as I got accepted into this doctoral program. So, for those of you guys that don't know, I am from the US, but I actually live in the UK, and I have been living here for about 2 years with my husband. So it became pretty evident pretty early on in the doctoral process that I was going to have to consider that like my original goals were not going to be the goals that I was going to meet in the end. I was going to probably have to change my sights as I moved on to kind of this really unexpected adventure and moving abroad in my life. So anyway, I started the doctoral program and I took like a couple of classes. Again, like I had super bad imposter syndrome and I really thought that everyone I was probably in this, online classroom with were probably these really high up intelligent people. But within like the first two courses, I really started to find my stride, and I was actually making like really high marks in those courses. And again, because I've got the ADHD, but I did not know it at the time, I think that was just like a huge dopamine hit for me. And once I realized I could ace like PhD courses, well, not PhD at the time, it was just doctoral in general. But once I realized that I was successful in those, I immediately went and changed to the PhD course so I could do a full dissertation. I was just like full send. And so as I got closer to leaving my life in the US behind and moving to the UK, I started really thinking about, what are going to be some other goals in the event that I was not going to be able to effectively research in education. Because where I live now, there's not so much research. There is some research stuff that I've been involved in on education, but in my area, they do focus more on like the healthcare, social care type things. I just felt that I needed to be prepared to kind of delve into a new field of research in the future. So one of the things I really started to focus on in my as kind of like a parallel in my PhD journey was how everyone else was doing in this journey. And I really saw, where I was originally thinking that all these people were going to have like all their stuff together. I really saw that there was a lot of people who were struggling with, their confidence. They were struggling with the structure of learning. They were becoming so overwhelmed. And I also saw a lot of other neurodivergent people that were really struggling to accomplish things in their PhD journey. That's where I started to get in my head like, hey, maybe I can start focusing on higher education, and maybe this is where I can kind of contribute to making a standard of learning accessible for all. And I started to think that maybe, like where you have like advisors and some people get really great advisors and professors in their courses, but especially when you're on like an online course, you might not get a lot of interaction with the humans that you need. So I thought maybe I can start being this middleman that can offer some reassurance to my colleagues. Once I graduated with my PhD in October of 2023. And again, I was still feeling like really high because I graduated in record time. I wrote my dissertation in record time, and I graduated with high distinction, which is like the first time I've ever been able to graduate with high distinction in anything in my entire life. It was the first time in my life I actually had a 4.0. Like I went from being in my at one point during my bachelor's degree, I was suffering so hard with my educational journey that I had like a 1 point something, and now I was graduating with a 4.0 in a PhD program. So I was feeling really, really good about myself, and now I wanted to help other people feel that way as well. So I reached out to a couple of my former professors and I asked them if they would just have a couple of students send me their dissertations for editing so I could just try it out, see if I liked it. And it really just took off from there. I think like the more I accepted manuscripts, the more that people were recommending me. And now it's really developed into like a really great thing for me. I also, after I graduated with my PhD, I went to the local university and I got a job as a researcher. So now I'm a researcher for the University of Plymouth, and I get to research topics in social care, which again again. It's out of my field, but I've really been excited to learn about social care, and I think, like, in a really weird way, it's helped me assimilate. I think it's been probably one of the biggest things that's helped me assimilate to my time in England, because working in social care, I've gotten to work closely with like a lot of different councils and things like that, and I really start to understand how the ways of England works through that. Here we are currently, I've got like 85 random strings of research projects going on. I've got all of the different things that I want to do with my editing, and my goals for the future is just to really build that up and be the best that I can be for you guys. I think it's really important to help people that are interested in research because, like I've said before, people who are informed are the people that are going to make the world a better place. Where now we have the tendency to get a lot of quick information that, we just take for face value and it might not be completely accurate. That's really like twisted the world in like kind of a really crazy way, I think. So I think really understanding how to research is invaluable to, just the future of everything in civilization. But anyway, I could go on and on. At the end of the day, if you're struggling with research, you're not alone. The path is never linear, and hopefully, my story has been relatable to you in some type of way. If it has been, I would love if you would leave me a comment. If you are interested in checking out all of the other stuff that I do, my link tree is in the description below, so you can check out my other social media. If you want to get a hold of me and you need some help for editing, you can contact me at mandykf, that's MANDIEKF, at gmail.com, or you can contact me through my website, www.drmandyedits.com. Okay, the next episode, I think we're going to go ahead and try to tackle the literature review. We're gonna start talking about the literature review, and I expect that this is probably going to be something that's going to take a few episodes to get done, but we're at least gonna like scratch the surface. So until next time, I hope you have a great day. Keep trucking on, and we'll get it done together somehow. See you later.